Bronce Rice. And, just to share a little bit about him, he is described himself as a psychoanalyst, psychologist, health and wellness coach, helping you understand, well-being equation. And yeah, Caroline and I were excited to have this conversation because we've known you for at least a year now. We've kind of stayed in touch. We think you're doing really wonderful work. And you shared with us that you've been working on getting this new book out there by the same name. And we just thought it'd be a really fun conversation to learn more about what you've been up to.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys offering me this opportunity. Um, it's nice, and I've enjoyed kind of watching you guys do what you do and help people out in this regard. So I appreciate it.
Mhm.
Yes. Thank you for being here with us. And if you're watching us and if you have questions, we can try to make this interactive. So post your question to Dr. Bronze on the chat, and we're going to do our best to read that. So, Dr. Bronze, can you tell us a little more about your book? Maybe the reason why, like what was your mainly motivation to write that?
So my book's called The Wellbeing Equation, and it's just kind of looking at like the different factors in someone's life and in terms of what goes into kind of their health and wellness in terms of well-being, and how would you think about bringing those factors together, stringing them together kind of in your daily life, daily activities, kind of with some synergy in regard to how you live things out. It's kind of what the book kind of runs you through, kind of looking at it kind of more as an art form. But I also kind of look at the science in terms of, what are the factors that are out there that kind of say, hey, this is kind of what contributes to your health and wellness. But the idea kind of started during the pandemic. And at that point, I could no longer go into the office. Like I'm in my office right now, and I could no longer
Mhm.
come to the office. And so I started to have to do kind of therapy, kind of telehealth online, which was kind of new for me. But quickly, what happened is I had such an inundation with people wanting to come see me that I couldn't see anybody anymore. It just got so much that I was seeing like 8, 9 people a day, 5 days a week, and it just became too much. Um, and then I had to kind of start turning away people who I used to see, 2, 3, 4 years ago that I was seeing previously, and they would want to come back to see me during the pandemic, and I couldn't see them. So, um, I'm so I'm going to say this. So my father was the pastor of the church I grew up with, and so kind of faith based aspects were kind of always in my mind, and so it was always kind of community based and acts of service. And so, I'd see my father at some point get a call at 2, 3, 4 in the morning, or go to a hospital, go see some people, and it was almost like it was a full time job. So it was a strange experience for me in terms of when I just couldn't, for my own health and well, I couldn't see anybody anymore. I had to cap it at 9 people a day. It's too much, 5 days a week, and that's why I ended up getting burnt out a little bit. But so in my world, it was a little bit of a sin that I turned people away in terms of in a younger day. At least this was my thinking, right? So I started to think, well, what could I offer people? And I thought, well, let me think about writing a book on health and wellness. And as people were like, well, in my mind, I was like talking to some people about it, and they're like, yeah, you'd be great, you could do that. And I'm like, but I don't know anything about writing a book. And I'm like, well, people figure it out. And so it kind of came out of a stressful period in my life in terms of I still wanted to give back to people that I couldn't see. Um, but I think I was also at the time looking back at, I was also trying to figure out, well, what else do I need in my own life for my own health and wellness? And so it's been kind of a pretty involved journey to kind of figure out, well, how do I do this, and then what component of it is online, and how do you kind of like take something that because I've heard the two of you kind of talk that each of you have experience in various different ways. And so for me, I kind of like listening to people. I can help people understand why their mind works the way it is. Like I've been trained kind of like as a psychoanalyst, so it's very deep, the unconscious mind in conflict. But then what happens if the people need something beyond their mind? What if their body needs something? You know, so in a sense, what if you wanted to help somebody say with yoga, meditation, things that I didn't have training in. And so at some point in time, I just started dabbling with some other things. But so that's kind of a long-winded answer in terms of how I came to write a book. Yeah.
That's very interesting. So it came from basically like I can't well which is very nice because I think the knowledge that you have is very, very powerful. Like if you can I think the mind is the gateway for the well-being. Right. It's kind of like
Yeah.
it's not the whole equation, if I would say, but it's almost the
Right.
one that
Yes.
can block everything. Like if the mind says like no, then you could be doing yoga, you could be eating well, but if your thoughts are unhealthy thoughts, it's very hard that you're gonna
Yeah.
be able to reach for well-being. And then I can only see 9 people a day, but I would love this message to reach out many
Yeah.
others. So how can I be like more generous and expand? That's a very interesting motivation. I appreciate that. If you were to say like, what is the I don't know if there is that like the one thing in this equation, like the one thing that like if people could take one thing out, like should we start connecting with their well-being more that it's written on your book, like what would you say? That's
Yeah, that's a
the
hard
key
one.
point.
I mean, I, I guess kind of where I think about starting with certain individuals, um, I call it the trifecta of wellness, but I have a chapter called the trifecta of wellness. But what that is kind of basically sleep, diet, exercise, right? So those are kind of the three pillars of kind of your mind and body in terms of, if you're not getting good quality of sleep, if you're not eating kind of healthy or eating a lot of junk food or sugar, um, not moving your body, so you're not kind of filling your mind and body with things that I think are kind of the baseline. And say, if you wanted to kind of go deeper, have more spiritual connection in various ways. I don't care if that's kind of with yourself, if that's with you and God, or you and your neighbors, however one looks at it, right? Um, my thinking becomes is, well, you take away those healthy three aspects, and you're no longer kind of able to connect to that kind of flow within yourself. And so if you can't have it inward, it's not going outward in a healthy directions in various ways. And so I think that's where I start in my own thinking. I think if you look through the literature, what the literature say is warm, loving connections with loved ones, with friends, and maybe some colleagues. They would say that's the biggest factor that there is, right? Healthy, warm relationships, caring, loving, what they would say. I don't disagree with that, but at the same time, it's like you don't take care of your body, go try to, you know, interact in some kind of loving fashion. It's like sooner or later that kind of breaks down in terms of your ability. That's kind of my take in terms of if I was going to answer it in terms of what's the one thing. It's like, well, sleep, diet, exercise. You could look at it as three things, but I look at it as the one thing: the body and the mind need to function if you want to get to a higher level, right? So that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because Caroline and I, as you alluded to earlier, we work together and we work kind of both ends
Yeah,
of our equation in a way. And so,
yeah,
it's interesting to hear about the book, but something I'm really curious about is the kind of as the marketer, behind what we do is, as long as I've known you, and we don't know each other that well, but we connected maybe a year and a half ago for the first time. And even then, when we
yeah,
first connected, what I really admired about you was you were just like so focused. You're like, I'm here to work on my book, to get my book, to get a
yeah,
publisher, to get this out there. And every time we've checked in on you, same thing. And that level of clarity and discipline is really impressive. And so I'm just curious if you could speak more to that journey and what it's been like, kind of going through the creative process, from having this idea and this calling, if
yeah,
I dare call it that, and
yeah,
getting to where you are now. And I know you're still in it, but it would be. I think people might really appreciate
yeah.
hearing about that.
It's I heard the two of you kind of talk at some point, right? Just in terms of uh, Carolina, I might have was listening to a recent. You were a guest on someone's Substack. As a woman, and you were talking about how the two of you met, and just the synergy that kind of happened right between between kind of you had something, you and both of you had something that kind of the other one kind of was working on or needed or something. But so for me, I kind of an introvert in various ways and do my own thing. And as far as psychoanalysis, I mean, it took me 10 years to kind of get through my program. And so I just kind of put my blinders on and went and did that. And so the book journey has been kind of like that in some kind of ways, in terms of I've had to kind of like put my head down and keep writing, keep trying to do some of these lives at points, trying to figure out, I need to keep focusing, keep at it, because I don't know what's the number that it's going to take. And so in some ways, I try to keep going into myself, but I also needed individuals like you to kind of help me understand, like, oh, what's going on out that I don't quite see. Like, I remember coming to early on, I came to something the two of you put on in Carolina. You did something at the beginning of the meeting, and it was something in regard to, I think, somatic kind of your training or something like that. And it was one of those times where I'm like, oh, this feels something akin to what I remember as a child growing up in a spiritual community where it felt like spirituality of some sort. I remember asking you at some point, like, what's your training like? This is very interesting, right? Um, so, for me, it's been a strange kind of like to get this book out, right? It's been a strange kind of like I took the focus of helping people, acts of service is just it's been ingrained in me since I was a child. And so this is kind of like another version of it kind of coming out. But what this process has done, because I've had to kind of go out and rely on other people, and I don't know that there's no like direct kind of path in terms of I go and someone says, oh, here's the curriculum in terms of here's what you have to learn and turn these things in this time frame and what helps you get through this. There was none of that. I'm like, oh, so when I wrote the book, when I put the book out, it's going to be somewhere between like 50 and 60,000 words. But when I ended the book, it 240,000 words. Because I didn't know. When do you want, like, when does the well-being equation stop? Like, I don't know. I'm trying to figure all this out. So part of it just been, I know how to be kind of driven to keep at something that's important to me, but how to kind of put it out there in a way that works for me and works for other people has been kind of interesting, right? Getting feedback and how do I incorporate those things. Um, and I think one of the things I would say in terms of the journey that's been kind of like humbling in some kind of way, it's like, oh, I want something bad. How do I not get caught up in too much anxiety and too much stress and irritation
Mm.
to do it, but keep at it in a way that feels like there's a rhythm to it, that you kind of connect with, mind, body, spirit, kind of a soul aspect that you can kind of calm down. And so it's been weird to kind of go through the irritation, stress, and then come back into myself and feel comfortable in my skin. Even this process here, in terms of having a live, it's just like I don't always love it. But things that I don't love, I'll get away from this. I'm like, man, I will enjoy this. It'll be fun, right? I'll be able to look back. Man, I'm really glad I did that. You know what I mean? But I don't always love putting myself out there. And if you come to see me for therapy, right? Like someone will sit down, like I ask them a couple questions, and they'll start talking. And if I don't want to, I don't have to do a whole lot of talking. And so here I got to do more talking and whatever else. Like for me, it's like I want, like there's a temptation to go, okay, oh, so I can talk to you about what I think some of the well-being equation is, but what I want to do is talk to you two about, oh, when you two work together and you help people kind of build out their business, there's a kind of well-being in there. How do you guys do that? And so that's part of where I go in terms of, oh, I want to have a back and forth in terms of what helps. Right.
Yeah. Well, if you have questions for us, we're happy to play that with you and share
Yeah.
anything that you're curious
And
about.
so,
Yeah.
yeah. And so, I mean, I think what I'd want to know is like for the two of you, like, okay, so my assumption would be, well, it's got to be nice to be able to rely on each other, talk things through while you're helping other people, kind of build out, kind of what they're trying to do in terms of. So I guess I would ask, well, what has that been like? Because I heard a little bit about how the two of you kind of met at some point, but what has that been like in terms of not only kind of meeting, but then building something out in terms of your own sacred business flow, well-being equation, whatever that is. Just talk a little bit about what works for the two of you, and what is that like? Sure.
Yeah, I just want to first to mention that I truly appreciate you sharing the behind the scenes of like being able to stay focused on your book journey, because I don't think it's an easy project, and I like it's the same as like how we help our clients and also for ourselves, like building a business, and it's something that's so close to our hearts. Like, what is this combination that you were able to articulate so well that like I need to put the blinds on, and I need to be looking what is in here, and then at the same time I need to stay connected, and like I call this like co-creation with life, right? Like, what is that life is giving
Yeah.
feedback back to me so I can keep
Mhm.
incorporating in my own
Yes.
creations. But I just want to say that out loud, because I think if anyone listening here, or if you are in a journey of like trying to write a book or come up with like a cool project that it's just very special and close to your heart, or even like building a business, it has those like ups and downs, and our ability to navigate that, I think it's what keeps you going, and your ability to always come back home to yourself, right? Because if it's too much out there, then you might be comparing yourself to people that have maybe 10 books already. They're very like in a different point, or you can have 10,000 ideas and never really focusing on the one thing that is actually trying to come through you. And I think the way you describe it is, it was just beautiful. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you. No,
And
that's nice in terms of to be able to hear someone kind of, you know, relay back what they've heard in terms of what I've said. It's a little bit about what happens for me in my world with the therapy. And you've been able to kind of point out, oh, the importance of the blinders, but turning back inward, connecting with things that are important, kind of in my soul, but then reaching back out to kind of try to figure out how to stay connected with others, have a community in various different ways. I'm still on that journey. That like the turning inward and churning and whatever else. I've gotten good at that. But the whole turning outward, sharing more about my own journey and staying connected, that's a whole new thing. That's what that's probably what Substack has brought me. Comfort,
yeah, and
but also
that's
some
exactly what it
excitement.
is.
Yeah, yeah.
And when you say that, like, oh, I might not like this too much and I'm very comfortable doing this, but then the book is inviting other things, and you're kind of like, it doesn't matter if it
Yeah.
feels good or not. Like, I'm here to face those parts and put myself
Yes.
out there, and right.
Yeah, no,
Mhm.
that bingo. That's nice. Yeah.
Yeah. And,
Mhm.
and just to your question about us, like yeah, like we came together, like he became my client first, dealing with his health issues. And before I was focusing more on like, it's always like energetics and very much connected to the body, but was very much connected to health in general. And then I hired Phil as my business coach because I wanted to grow online business. My thing was like in person. And I think what keep us going, and I think it's a great synergy, is we both hold each, like, I think I see something in him that I hold him to a very
Ah,
high standard that, like it's in him.
yes.
But not necessarily he sees it all the time. And I think the opposite is also true. I think he holds me to a very high standard that it's in me, that maybe I don't always see it. And I believe, and you can say that you disagree, Phil, that I give him enough faith to become that. And that's the sacredness of our container, the same way that he gives me enough space to become or keep becoming that that he sees that I might not be able to see it yet if I'm being clear. And then in that space, like we are running a business together, and I have my own power in it. Like I have my space. I'm a business owner. He's a business owner, and we're co-creating together. So in that freedom that we have within the container, and he has his knowledge and the things that he's good at, and I have my knowledge and the things that I'm good at. I think we just play, like a tennis. Like it's kind of like not tennis. Tennis is the opposite. Like I don't know if you know this, but we have in Brazil fresco ball. And Phil, maybe you can describe what that is, which is like you play with the racket.
Oh, the paddles. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we have the pedals, but then it's me and him. But my goal is to put the ball on his pedal, and his goal is to put the ball on my pedal, so we can always, So it's a game that differently from tennis. You call tennis in English too, right? So it's different from that I'm like me against him. It's kind of like we need to help each
We
other.
were with, and I like that.
So that's how I see it.
Yeah.
The other thing I was gonna share was just kind of going back to when we started the business was, we both had our own things going on, and we were both, successful, quote unquote, in our own right. But we had this vision. We had this shared vision after we had experimented for a little while. And one of the things that I think was really important for how we've been able to move in the last 3 years was, and I see a lot of people kind of make this mistake when they enter into partnerships or collaborations, is that we went all in. Like it was a very clear conversation. We said, hey, do we both believe in this? Do we think there's something here that's worth bringing forward? And the answer was yes. And then we said, okay, if that's true, am I, Phil, willing to stop seeing my CMO clients and all this other stuff I had going on? Carolina, are you willing to temporarily say no to, she was getting really cool invitations to do retreats and all these different things all over the place and travel. Are you willing to say no to those things and like just 100% focus on this? And that's what we did. And that was our agreement. And I feel that a lot of times people kind of enter things a little bit wishy-washy, or they hedge their bets. They're right. Okay, yeah, I'm going to try this thing with you, but I'm going to keep doing my other thing over here. And I think that, we just had a very strong belief in the mission of what we were doing. And we were willing to kind of say, hey, we're going to and really failure is not an option. Like we're going to figure it out, like maybe it's going to, and it has in certain ways, like maybe it's not going to go exactly the way we are imagining it now, but we're going to figure this out. And I really relate that to kind of, and that's why I see your success, emerging with what you're doing, because, before this call, and I hope you won't mind that I said this, you were sharing like how you're like, well, I don't know how to do a book, but I'm going to figure it out. And you were sharing, well, someone told me, hey, if you're going to do this, I need to make myself visible. And then you're like, well, don't really know how to do that, but I'm going to try LinkedIn, and then Substack feels better, so I'm going to do that. And that attitude of just being like, I'm gonna go for it. I don't need to have all the answers right now, and just like one foot in front of the other, I think is really key to the entrepreneurial path. And I think that's something also that Carolina and I hold ourselves to as a partnership, because we don't have all the answers, and also it's the benefit of a partnership, because when doubt comes up sometimes, I'm not going to lie, like there's times where I'm like, shit, is this going to work? Are we going to get this to the finish line? And she can hold that, and vice versa. So it's been a really fun journey.
Mm-hmm. No, it's interesting listening to the two of you, because like I've written the book and on my own, kind of and to be thinking about the well-being equation in terms of, well, I kind of think about it like a fingerprint, right? That everybody has a unique fingerprint. Everybody has one. So everyone has like a well-being equation, but they're all a little different, right? And so kind of like trying to figure out how to kind of present and work with people and their differences, but still have to help them connect up with their well-being has been interesting. But as I listen to the two of you, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe my next book would be about the well-being equation in terms of between a couple. In terms of how do they navigate the world of a relationship and because there's more moving parts in various ways, but also kind of probably more dynamic and fluid in a certain kind of regard. And so as you're talking, I'm like, oh, that's interesting just to listen to you in terms of how the two of you came together
Mhm.
and holding each other accountable, but also kind of like, well, what do you do when things look like they might not quite meet the deadline together? And pretty interesting, right? It's just nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like what you said just now about the comparing with the fingerprint, right? I believe that too, like what works for you. And even it's like with diet, right? Like what is,
Yeah.
like
Right.
people say, like become vegan, like maybe being
Right.
vegan
Yeah.
works for you, but it doesn't mean that it works for me, or just eat meat.
Right.
And maybe it works
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
that guy, but but there are some basics that like the way you said, like, yeah, you need to sleep, you need to eat, and you need to drink water, like, and then you need to have connections. But how are you going to
Yeah.
do this? Like
Right.
this, the 6 hours, the 8 hours. And but I don't think, what I think it's very powerful about what you said is, like, often we don't question that because we lost connection with our own body. So like
Yeah.
people are saying, especially like with AI and optimizing everything, like optimizing
Yeah.
sleep. You need to sleep for 4 hours and then,
Right.
wake up for 30 minutes and sleep again for 4 hours. Like, do you question that for yourself? Like, can you find that in you? And I
Yeah.
think we kind of sometimes lose the ability to find our uniqueness and our own like fingerprint for many things, not only for well-being, but for business, for
Absolutely. And sometimes that takes a long time to figure out how to go inward and go deep and figure out what's unique about you and how to bring your voice out into the world. And you two talked about kind of having a bit of a container. Like you have a container for your business between the two of you, but then you'll have your own containers. And so that's very important in terms of trying to figure out how to have a container in some regard to go and do the work. And that's, I think that's kind of a piece too in terms of, well, how do you like in your mind in terms of when you're going about your week and whatever your life, how do you connect up mind, body, spirit, and have those things align? It's like, well, it weaves, it moves, but there are points kind of where you can kind of feel it coming in alignment. Like to me, it's like, okay, that for me is like when I feel like some kind of well-being equation is moving, and I want to know, well, what does that entail? And I remember when one of the first times I came to your groups, Caroline, again, you did something, and I'm like, man, this feels like mind, body, spirit somehow in a way that I don't often come across, but it's important, I think. And so, anyway, it was kind of nice having a further talk with the two of you, kind of like getting a chance to talk with you about behind the curtain a little bit in terms of, oh, well, how do you do that? How do you think about it? How do the two of you work together? It's nice.
yeah. And I'm
Yeah.
just relating to kind of like my classes, because I think that was like a fragmented approach in my own life. Like I'm like, I was here feeding my mind and like reading and all of
Yeah.
that. And then I was there doing exercises with my body and like doing yoga. And then I was here living my life.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
kind of noticed is like, well, I knew with my mind here, but then I was desiring something over here. And then my
Yeah.
body was feeling
Yeah.
something here. And not necessarily I was being able to apply, the things that was coming through me, like my spiritual practices with my thoughts and then what my
Yeah.
body was feeling. And I think the work that I do, like the radiant flow method, which is like the embodiment
Yeah.
classes that we teach inside the community, is the combination of that. Is like, how can I bring all of those aspects together so they
Yeah.
all go in one direction, right? So
And that's kind of what I think about the well-being equation is like, well, they're different parts, but how do you kind of weave those together at points, at least, and live something out, the synergy of it, where it creates a sense of aliveness, connectedness. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
nice.
The other thing I would say is that I feel that, you know, we have this true desire and heart for service, but I also feel that what we are creating gives so much back to us. Like I genuinely feel like it's a true gift. Like we've created the
Mm.
perfect conditions for what I see as our own individual and collective evolution, right? So the way we've structured our business has a lot of and this is a lot of what we help our clients do too, but it has a lot of breathing room for our own curiosity, our own exploration, where we want to move in our own path and spirituality, our ability to move together. And when I say move together, physically move together. Carrie and I move a lot, because I participate in the classes, and then we have we have a visioning process, which we also teach our clients, that kind of helps us stay focused on where we want to go. Like, where is our vision? And that vision is much larger than just like, oh, we want to get to $300,000 or $600,000 or $1 million, whatever it is that somebody might have as a goal. And it really looks at all aspects of our lives, and so we're constantly calibrating to that as well. But yeah, I feel that the container that we have created, it's kind of this virtuous circle, or my desire is, I don't want to speak for other people's experience, but what I feel is that as much as we are able to give through what we're creating, it's coming back to us tenfold. And it's also what keeps me, at least, won't speak for Carolina, keeps me energized to keep going and keep showing up and keep outputting and doing more, because it's just genuinely such a great feeling, like, honestly.
Mm-hmm. No, that's quite nice. I mean, because in a sense, it's like, well, what you're spending your time working at in terms of, to feed yourselves and everything else. It's like, well, but you're helping others while you help yourselves. And it's in regard to some kind of connection, spirituality. And it's like that kind of sense of kind of totality or wholeness, right?
Mm-hmm.
That it's quite nice. I mean, that must be quite. I mean, I don't know what you like in my previous, kind of growing up, that would be kind of a religious, spiritual experience that you're playing out, and at moments at least, quite moving.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's,
Yeah.
Yeah, like I see in a way, like we talk about service like all the time, right? Because it's like a sacred business. I think the mainly, like, we work with people in the transformational space, but then it's like this desire to serve, like this desire. Not every business is born out of this. Like, some business are just like opportunistic, and this is a thing here that's being sold, and I want to sell this, and that's it, and that's fine with, like, that's totally fine. But in this, when you're creating from that space, I think that the first thing is like, how do I want to help people, right? And how can I help people? But one question that people fail to ask, that I think it's kind of what you asked yourself, maybe not in this way, when you're kind of like, I can't see more than 9 people a day, is like, what do I want my business, or how do I want my business to serve me? And people do not ask this question, right? Like, maybe having 10 clients a day, it's not serving you. But then you kind of like, you didn't ask this question, but you kind of like, but I can see that I can't go further than this, and I still want to help people. So then maybe a book. So it's kind of that the universe is made of positive, the negative, the feminine, the masculine, the giving.
That's nice.
Right? The giving, like, then exhausts you, then it burns you out, and for what, right? But if you keep focusing on the going and coming and that exchange, I think you create such a powerful container that's like great to help more and more and more people, but also honoring your body, your mind, your lifestyle, your family, your relationships, and everything that comes together, right?
Yeah. No. And so to me, it's like, if I listen, right, it's like, oh, well, you've just laid out some movement parts and the flow, right? And then you kind of name it part of what you do, radiant flow, as a well-being equation. And as far as what I've labeled it, I mean, I had to pick a name for it, and that's what I did. But there's kind of a aliveness that you're kind of living out and figuring out how to move with it over time, how to grow and mature, give back and take in, and it's very nice. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Cool. So if for your book, do you have, I don't know if you have like a date yet, or an expectation, or if people here are interested, like, is there like a wait list that people can, like, I want to hear more about it?
Yeah. How do people stay in touch with you if they're like, I want this book when it comes out?
Well, I mean, I guess you'd have to kind of get a hold of me kind of through Substack, right? DM me or whatnot. But I don't know when it's coming out. That's the whole thing. It's like, so I got an agent, I don't know, October of last year, which means, okay, well, I've got a shot at putting my book proposal in front of some publishing houses, and um, my agent's been doing this for 30 years as far as what he does, and so he wouldn't be spending time with me because he doesn't get paid until my book comes out. Until I make money, he doesn't make money. So he must think there's a shot somehow. I don't know. At least that's my fantasy, right? Keep it positive. And so I think my book may be in front of some publishing houses right now, but I don't know how long that takes, right? In terms of them to get back to me. You do I get a contract? Don't I? So it's kind of it's uncertain at this point. I'm still kind of like, okay, keep with the principles, keep going inward, keep writing, keep putting stuff out. Um, and so it's really been a kind of a almost like some kind of like spiritual journey for me with this book because it's put me up against the uncertainty of I don't know, and I'm anxious and I'm excited. And normally I would kind of back away from that combination. It's not something I always love. But what it's required me to do is to connect up with the anxiety and the excitement as I'm doing today with this live and move forward with it with some uncertainty in terms of how it goes. Kind of like experiments in living. I don't quite know how it's going to go, but I got to go do it and find out. And so I don't know when it's going to come out. That's the whole thing. I mean, I got an agent, so it's like, oh, and that was
But
nice.
you're holding the pose, as we like to say in the meantime. So it's
Holding the
beautiful.
pose,
Well,
exactly.
yeah, this is this is a term we use, but yeah. So we'll be sure to, we're going to share this with our audience as well, and we'll be sure just to make sure, I know Substack is your kind of preferred home at the moment for sharing, so we'll make sure that people get that link, and if they want to stay tuned with what you're up to, I know you're putting out other great content as well, so we'll make sure people have that. And yeah, it's really been nice to have this conversation and catch up and hear
No,
what
very
you've been up to.
nice. Yeah. Yep. And so if people want to, I have if you go to my Substack, site, I have pinned there. It's called Your Wellbeing Equations Like a Fingerprint. That's where I get it from. And so there's some people can kind of go read and get a little sense about kind of what I'm up to and a little flavor of the book from that article. I
Awesome.
appreciate the time.
Awesome.
Appreciate you guys
Very
doing
nice.
this.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Yeah, you're very
and I
welcome. We appreciate it as well. It's always fun. Yeah.
Yes, thank you for being here with us. And we're going to be holding the pose with you and holding the pose of success that is coming your way. And we just got to keep holding the pose. That's what it is. Like, even when you don't see out there, you have signs already, but that's the most like moments, like when you don't know and you allow that, holding the pose to come from within. And we are holding that with you.
Thank you. No, I forget because that'll help me kind of think about as I'm kind of waiting and continuing to put stuff out. What am I doing? It's like, wow, part of holding the pose and kind of
Yeah,
continuing to keep my body in a healthy position. Then, right? That-
absolutely. Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you, everyone.
And stay in touch.
We'll,
Bye, Dr.
we'll
Bro.
see you soon, Bronce. Take care. Bye.
Yeah. Thank you.